Hi vinyl community, it's Mike here, and today's video is another thread. This time it's one that I saw Rob Walker Let the Music Play do a couple of weeks back, but it's also been done, or something similar has been done by Dale, Gatefold 33, and also Harris Pilton. So what it is, it's called I Only Need One Album by These Artists. So the challenge is to pick out some artists, I've got 10 here, who you think, you could get away with just sort of one album of theirs in your collection. Now, some of these, I do only have one album. Others, I have other albums as well. But what they all have in common is that whenever I want to listen to this particular artist, it's always this album that I go for. So, right, first off, Lou Reed, and it's Transformer 1972, and I think this is an absolutely brilliant album. Now, back in the day, I had no idea who Lou Reed was, but I can remember sort of digging around in local record shop, and I noticed that Mick Ronson had a credit on this album. I thought, yep, Mick Ronson, David Bowie, I'll have to give it a listen. And then Walk on the Wild Side became a bit of a hit in the UK. And yeah, this is a great album. I mean, there's nothing on here that's actually bad. I mean, it starts off with Vicious, and it's just Perfect Day, Hanging Round, and then Walk on the Wild Side. And on side 2, you've got Make-Up, Satellite of Love, which I think is brilliant. Wagon Wheel, New York Telephone Conversation, which is a bit of a sort of throwaway track, but I think it's absolutely lovely. I'm So Free, and then finishes with Goodnight Ladies. Now, I do have quite a few other Lou Reed albums in my collection. I think New York is a pretty good album, as is Berlin. But whenever I think I'll listen to some Lou Reed, it's always this one. It's always Transformer. So that's the first one. Second off, band from Portishead in Bristol called Portishead. And this is their absolutely magnificent album, Dummy. They made 3 albums altogether, but this is the only one in my collection. And I've never really thought about buying any of the others. I mean, Beth Gibbons' voice is absolutely stunning, and this is an absolutely brilliant album. I mean, Glory Box that finishes the album, probably the best finish to an album ever, an absolutely brilliant track. But everything on here is great. Right from the start, Mr. On's, you've got Sour Times, Strangers, It Could Be Sweet, Wandering Star, Numb, Roads, Pedestal, Biscuit, and then Glory Box. And as I say, they made 3 albums altogether, and I've never felt the need to buy any of the others, and I think this is absolutely brilliant. So there you go, Portishead, Tommy. Next off, going right back to the early 70s, Supertramp, Crime of the Century. Again, I think this is a great album. It's probably the proggiest of Supertramp's albums. Probably why I like it. And again, has some wonderful tracks on it. I mean, there's other albums by Supertramp that are pretty good. I mean, Breakfast in America it is a really good one. Crisis What Crisis. Again, but this I just love it. I mean, Skull is a really good track. Crime of the Century, again, a good way to finish the album. Rudy, If Everyone Was Listening. It's just a great album. Every track is great, and again, if I want to Supertramp, this is the album that I listen to. In a similar vein, Wishbone Ash, Argus. And again, Wishbone Ash, their albums are very, very inconsistent in terms of style. You know, sometimes you get sort of quite hard rock, and other times, like this is really a proggy concept album, and I've always I've always loved it. Unfortunately, my original copy went walkabout many years ago, so this is a rather cheap reissue from whenever. But again, you know, Wishbone Ash Argus, I think it's a great album, and it's the only Wishbone Ash album I really listen to, even though I have 3 or 4 others. Next up, UB40, and this is their debut album, Signing Off, and this is the facsimile of a UB40, which is the form that you'd fill in when you found a job and you signed off the dole. I think most people of my age in the UK have had one of these at some point in their lives. And it comes with the album, and then there's a 12-inch single in there that's Madame Medusa, which is about Margaret Thatcher, Strange Fruit, and Reefer Madness. Again, it's a great album. Other UB40 albums, I think, are pretty good, but this one really, it's a definitive UB40, so I absolutely love it. Right, this might be a bit controversial. Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. You know, I think this is a really great album, but I'm really not sold on Queen at all. I've got a couple of their other albums. I've got the first 2 albums, and they're okay. But this one, you know, I think from start to finish, you know, it's a good album. You know, what have you got on here? There's Killer Queen on here, and Brighton Rock, which is the opener. And it's a great album. I think the problem with Queen is that the longer they went on, the more they decided they were some highfalutin stadium band, and it was all sort of anthemic rock, and not for me at all. But this album, I think, is really good. So that's Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. And another band, and again, it's their debut album, and it's the eponymously titled Dire Straits. And this is a really good album. And it came out, I think, in 1979, was it? 78, 79. And at the time, I was listening to punk mainly. And this album certainly is not punk. But what it is, it's a really, really lovely record that sort of, it's very evocative of London. I mean, you know, the tracks on here, I mean, Sultans for Swing, which everyone knows. You know, just the idea of coming into a pub on a sort of like rainy evening and listening to some brilliant band that are just playing in the corner. You know, that is a really, really brilliant track. And you know, Wild West End, In the Gallery, Lions, again, is very good. And it's a lovely album. But then you know, I think they decided that they were going to go and seek sort of mega fame. I think they played very much to the American audience with their later albums, and they gained millions of fans, and they lost one, which is me. You know, I just can't abide anything else that they did. But this is an absolutely brilliant album. So there you go, Dire Straits. Another one, a band that I do love, and that's Japan. And again, I've got other albums by Japan, but this is the one that I always come back to Tin Drum because it's an absolute classic. You know, I mean, from start to finish, this is great. I mean, what have we got? We've got, you know, The Art of Parties, Talking Drum, Ghosts. I mean, Ghosts is such a lovely song. Um, then Canton finishes side one, and then you've got Still Life in Mobile Homes, Visions of China, Sons of Pioneers, and Cantonese Boy. And there's not a bad track on this album. So, as I say, you know, Japan, if I want to listen to Japan, invariably, this is the album I listen to. Right, two to go. And this one, Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. Again, this is a lovely album. I mean, I think she'd been going a few years before she released this album, but this is her really big sort of breakthrough, and it's a fantastic album. Again, I've got a couple of her other albums on CD, but this is the one I always listen to. You know, you've got, you know, tracks like, I mean, Crucify it's a really fantastic track, and then there's Me and a Gun, which I mean, it's quite a sort of harrowing song, but again, I think it's a bit of a masterpiece. And you know, this is really good, and I've never, you know, I never really feel the need to listen to any other Tori Amos albums. I always come back to this one, and it's an absolute brilliant album. So that's Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. And finally, it's the Eagles, and it's Hotel California. And this, I think, it's a great album. You know, I mean, back in the day, I mean, I think everybody I knew had a copy of this album, but absolutely nothing else that the Eagles have ever done has remotely appealed to me. But you know, the track list on this, and there's something really odd, I think, about this whole thing, because you start off with Hotel California, which is a great track. New Kid in Town, love that. Life in the Fast Lane, and then probably the weakest track on the whole album, Wasted Time, and that finishes side one. So what do? We get Wasted Time reprise to start side two. It's almost as if they have got no proper quality control. You know, I'll tell you what, we've got one Duff track, so why don't we put it on the album twice? Because then you've got Victim of Love, Pretty Maids All in a Row, which is a Joe Walsh track, Try and Love Again, and then it finishes with The Last Resort, which I think is great. So, you know, this album is really good. I mean, I haven't listened to it for quite some time, and I do really like it. As I say, apart from the one track. But there you go. So that's my 10 albums that artists only need one album by. So until next time, bye.